Hello and welcome to HRC Connect. I'm Hilary Roberts, founder and CEO of HRC Recruitment and your host for today's event, which covers top priorities for business leaders in the months ahead and key issues to consider when it comes to hiring. The content for today's webinar has been primarily based around what we considered to be business as usual talent management issues. However, as we're already witnessing, the events of the last 24 hours have the potential to impact not only the Ukraine, but the global economy as a whole. Given, however, that we at HRC have frankly no control over the events that are currently shaking the world, and that Vladimir Putin is the only person who knows what his next move might look like, we have opted to keep today's session focused on the employment situation we've been dealing with in the last weeks and last months. This is the first of a series of live events, so no doubt we will have plenty of opportunity to comment further on this situation as it unfolds. So, for today's session, I am delighted to be joined by 4 members of our senior leadership team. I'd like to introduce you all to Joe McShane, our Chief Commercial Director for the business.
Hello everyone. Hello Hilary.
Hello Joe. Michelle Lennon, Director of Manufacturing and Engineering. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Great to see you. Mags Richmond, our Director for our Professional Services Group.
Afternoon, everyone. Good to be here.
Afternoon, Mags. And Shona Preston, last but certainly not least, our Client Services Director.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Shona. So today, guys, we've got 45 minutes allocated for this session. So as we all know, recruiters are really well known for their ability to talk a lot. So we'll all have to work quite hard in our time management, which might prove interesting and perhaps actually more interesting for some than others. No guesses who. Our goal today is to provide you with our thoughts and insights into the issues around talent management, talent attraction, and talent retention. Obviously, our asking questions is a big part of today's event. So please feel free to use the Q&A bar at the bottom of the live screen, and we will make every effort to answer your questions at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to go to Joe and Shona for our first question. Joe, starting with you, if you had to list the 3 most important priorities to embrace and focus upon in 2022 for business leaders, what would they be? And big question, does purpose really still matter?
Well, Hilary, it's a big question and I will try and be brief. I think context is important here in that COVID really represented our industrial revolution. If you'd told me that we were to move our entire workforce into virtual working overnight in February 2020, I wouldn't have believed you. So taking that as the context, I think there are the 3 things that I would highlight. The first one is for business leaders to embrace change. All the possibilities that digital, IT, AI throw up to improve productivity, embrace this, because if you don't, your competitors will. And as Hilary was alluding to at the start, there may be more change coming. So stay awake to all of this. The second point I would say is staff retention. The Office for National Statistics reported in January that the UK had 1.2 million vacancies unfilled. The context for this being that ordinarily the number runs somewhere around about the 700,000 mark. So business leaders need to be aware that if you have good staff, make no bones about it, they have options in the market if they choose to look. And the third point, I guess, is that if your business's growth is predicated on recruiting talent, I would have to say in my 30 plus years in this industry, it's harder for companies to recruit talent than it's ever been, and you must compete. So your final point in the question, Hilary, does purpose matter? Yes, more important than I think it's ever been. It's not just a matter of treating employees as commodities. Your EVP matters. You need to think about DE&I. You know, the UN sustainability targets. This comes up when we talk to candidates in a way it never did before, and what your business's part is in the wider community.
Okay, that's very interesting, Joe. Thanks very much. Shona, what's your thought on this?
Yeah, so Joe's obviously made some really good points there. Leading on from what Joe's already covered, for me, the first thing to consider is retention of your people. So not surprisingly, happy people, our happy employees lead to happy customers. And we all know that there's a massive war for talent just now, a real challenge to keep employees content and productive. So as business leaders, we are obligated to really keep or create an employee-focused culture. So a number of ways that we can do that. So the first would be, active listening, and you've got the opportunities to do that through one-to-ones, employee surveys, checking in with your teams, really understanding what their challenges are, what they're facing in, and really importantly, actually out of work, and how you can support them as a business. Once you've kind of got some themes coming through there, you can obviously, the next thing to do is take the action, because that really shows your people that you're listening to them and that you're addressing the issues that they're coming up against. You're trying to help. And I suppose the final point on how you can affect that is being a real role model within the business. So you need to walk the talk, because ultimately it comes from the top down, and employees will absolutely follow your lead. The second issue I would say is employee well-being. So, over the last couple of years, we've all been living in a really stressful environment in both work and at home. And we really need to educate our leaders and our managers and empower them to be advocates of their own team's wellness, supporting their team as much as they can. As a business, we can offer a benefits package that addresses all elements, whether it's physical, mental, financial burdens that our people are facing, and provide them with options that are tailored to individual needs. So that's why, a lot of companies will offer flexible benefit plans, which people can then choose what's the most important to them. Interestingly, Nike, LinkedIn and Bumble actually gave all of their employees an additional week off to focus on their mental health last year, which I thought was really interesting, actually. And the final one, again, Joe's already touched on this, we are absolutely in a war for talent, and attracting top talent is going to continue to be an issue, I would think, for some time. There's really strong competition across every single market that we're seeing. And employees more than ever want to work for companies where they feel really valued, they've got a sense of belonging, there's a culture of collaboration, they're working with trusted colleagues. They've got career development, and they can see their own potential to grow with that business. And also, very importantly, they've got the flexibility to work, to integrate their work life with their personal lives, because they obviously we all have demands in that respect as well. And again, linking your purpose to your employee value proposition is absolutely critical.
Okay, that's great, Shona. Thank you. Some great points there. So what I heard from that was, starting with Joe, we had to embrace change. I think we've been doing that for the last 2 years. That's not going anywhere. We've got to focus on staff retention, which I absolutely agree with. And we've got to consider health and well-being, and actually really understand and get under the skin of what our teams are looking for out of their work and life balance. And I guess that brings me on really nicely onto our second question, which is around EVP. So in 2021, we all heard loads about the Great Resignation. This was being reported worldwide. And therefore, in 2022 and beyond, what do we think EVP features will leaders need to introduce into their businesses to create what I would classify as an enviable culture that will allow them to attract and retain talent in their business? Joe, can I come back to you again, please?
Surely. I mean, the difficulty is that there's so much conflicting evidence in relation to this. If we remember at the start of COVID, there was huge amount of speculation about mass redundancy, and with the exception of a couple of sectors, there was little actual evidence of that as COVID played out. And in 2021 rolled on, you heard about the Great Resignation, and from my perspective, and the companies that I deal with, again, there's little evidence of that. But then again, there is the chilling evidence from the YouGov poll in January, which said that a third of our employees are looking for new work, and they're not necessarily telling their employer. So the conflicting evidence points to the fact that nobody really knows, and we're in a marketplace where change is the key. Certainly, one of the big news stories of the last few months has been labour shortage, and being the issue in business, and I would agree with that. So to create an enviable culture, I think we need to start with our end in mind. If we want an enviable culture, we really, really need to listen to our employees, not pay this lip service. The days of the 9 to 5 in the office 5 days a week is an anachronism. We've all learned from this period that we've been through that hybrid working can be really, really quite efficient, and people want it. They want a work-life balance. They don't want to be treated as a commodity. They're very, very interesting in training. L&D is very important to employees. That's what they're telling us. Education is important. And as IT continues to take a grip on business, we need to skill our people for the future. And again, if we don't, somebody else is going to. So talk to your employees and listen to what they say. Really properly listen.
Okay, that's great. Mags, what are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, for me, to get an enviable culture, you really need to build it on shared values. And I think these are things that everybody needs to understand what the business's values are. They need to be lived and talked about on a day-to-day basis. I think that's so important to make sure everybody understands what they're going for. If you're going to create quite an innovative environment, then it will encourage two things. One, that the people that are there, your talent, will stay. And then the other thing is that other people are going to want to come and join you. So it's important that gives you that base to build on. I think for me, the two key things that we need to look at, particularly just now, hybrid working, Joe's already mentioned that. It's so important that our business gets this right. It's what more and more people are looking for. So everyone set it up at home in a panic when COVID happens, and now it's about adjusting that model so that it works for the business and it works for the individual, and the transition between being in home or being in work actually really works for them, and it's seamless. It's an attractive proposition. You need to have hybrid working. And then well-being, it's already been mentioned a couple of times already in our conversation today, but it needs to be a very personal thing. Everyone needs to be treated as an individual, and it's very much going to be the secret to success. There's no two ways about it. So have you got career plans in place for everyone? Have you got a broad base of benefits so that people can choose? Not everybody wants a gym membership. I would include myself in that. And then mental health as well. So it's going to be a factor. Everyone wants to feel supported. And I think since COVID, it's really gone up there in terms of the way we need to look at things. And holidays, completely massive. Everyone needs to take a break and recharge, and we finally have the opportunity now to go somewhere different other than just another room in our house. So we all now have that choice. Are we going to go Costa del Couch, or are we off to Florida? Back to you, Hilary.
I'm taking it from your comments, you're not HRC's gym bunny and you might be opting for Costa del Couch.
Yeah, I'm happy with Costa del Couch and not the gym. I'm okay with that.
That's great, guys. Thank you very much. Again, what I heard back from that, and I think we'll hear a lot of the same themes coming through from today, is hybrid working is something that we're all going to have to navigate really carefully. Telling people they're coming back to the office 5 days a week is just not going to cut it. Health and well-being, and actually that ties into how you listen to your staff members and take time to ask them the right questions. And the whole thing around health and well-being is also really, really critical. So thank you very much for that, guys. Moving on to our next question. I'm going to put this to Shona and Michelle. Do you think companies should align executive reward with corporate purpose for their companies? And if so, should businesses be bonusing staff on values, services, and corporate goals alongside any other core business objectives? Shona.
So my take, absolutely yes. And there are so many reasons why we should be. Firstly, it encourages the right behaviours from executives to ensure that they're thinking beyond profit solely. And I think, we've all heard about all the well-documented scandals there's been over the years, from Enron, WorldCom, the financial crisis, among others. And it could be argued that in a large part they were driven by purely focusing on profit-based incentives. So I think, we've touched on this a couple of times. People increasingly want to work for companies that can demonstrate social responsibility. They care about the well-being of their employees, their clients, and the wider community that they're operating in. So I think if we link executive reward to those behaviours, it just reinforces that commitment to making it a reality and the working practices of that company. So yeah, companies are companies who are more people focused are shown time and time again that they're more successful because their employees ultimately are happier in their work.
Okay, that's great. Michelle, what are your thoughts on this issue?
I completely agree with Shona. I think this is hugely important, Hilary. We bonus people on what's important to our companies. So if we're not bonusing people on the values and the purpose of the company, it's projecting the wrong message externally about our company brand. So we don't want to do that. So we want to ensure that our company culture and our purpose is projected and our brand to the external market. So by rewarding on company values, services and goals, we're ensuring that it's embedded in our culture. And this must come from the top. So it must start with our exec level. But I would actually say that we should be, rewarding on this throughout, the company, to ensure that it's embedded and that we're taking it seriously. Clients, candidates and employees want to work with a forward-thinking company that take the purpose and their values seriously. And it's not just, somebody mentioned it before, I think it was Joe, we're not paying lip service to, to values on the wall. They must be authentic and they must be part of our brand. And by rewarding and bonusing people on these values, we'll ensure that this message, is achieved and aligned with our values.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you. You're both clearly coming from the same page here. And, as a business, HRC has done a lot of work around their values over the last 2 years, and we're really beginning to see the benefits from that. And I couldn't agree with you both more. Okay, thank you very much. Again, moving on to the next issue. And this goes to Joe and Michelle. Do you think that stakeholders have changed their expectations of what makes a good business leader in a hiring company over the last few years? And do you also think that this affects the candidate's decision to engage with that particular business? Joe.
Well, again, the themes from earlier come through. We're in a marketplace that's unprecedented in my experience for the employer. And good candidates have options. Now, we need to get away from thinking about business purely as the bottom line and purely to do with the transaction that we're involved in. There's been numerous research from the CIPD, which kind of backs up much of what we experience, which is you would automatically think that the issue is pay. But it's not, it's a factor, of course, but actually what comes through in the research is that the boss plays a really, really crucial role. And for all the reasons that we've been talking about today, therefore the expectation on that boss to perform has to ally to everything that we've been discussing earlier. They're interested in their prospects, employees are interested in training. And again, back to the purpose, it's not just about the bottom line or treating people in a transactional way. And if we're in the market conditions that we absolutely are in, candidates have options, and therefore, when you look at the role of the hiring manager, it's crucial.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that I've got to be in my best behaviour with all of you going forward.
I'm glad you picked up on that.
The boss's role is crucial. Okay, Michelle, what are your thoughts on this?
I would completely agree with Jo, Hilary, and that you should be in your best behaviour. And just to build on that, I think there's been a big change in expectations. So business leaders now must offer more to all stakeholders, clients, candidates, and employees. All stakeholders are looking for a company that fits with their personal values and goals, and not just their professional goals. So they're looking for these values and purpose to be present and evident throughout the process. And again, it comes back to them being evident and genuine. People want to work with a genuine company that cares. And if the question asked about candidates in particular, candidates want to work with a company and for a company that care about people, values, sustainability, D&I. More and more we're getting more informed questions from our candidates now. At the very first stage of the interview process, candidates are interested in how companies have dealt with the crisis over the last 20 months. How have they dealt with it? How are they future proofing? How are they interpreting other global and community issues that are going on, and what are they doing about it? They're not just jumping on it, but they're actually taking it seriously. So that authenticity comes in there again. They want to work with a company that focuses on important issues. Jo mentioned it, salary and job title are no longer enough. Companies should be promoting employee value proposition, a strong set of company values which they are living by, and getting their company culture key, commitment to DE&I, sustainability, and this is all informing the candidate's decision whether or not to engage with them. So we've seen a massive change.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from both of you is it's no longer enough to just talk to candidates about an enticing job. It's about the whole package of what that company is actually all about, what they stand for, what their purpose is, and what their values are, and how that translates into the employee experience. Is that right?
Well, I don't think these things were an issue in the 1990s, Hilary. But I think if when you're talking to candidates just now and employees just now, these issues are very, very important to them. And in an environment where people have choice, we need to listen to this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Although I can't actually personally remember the 1990s terribly well, Jo.
Well, I was going to say that I'm far too young to know about that, Jo. But what I would say on that topic as well, Hilary, is that business leaders are now the shop window for the organisation. That's it's got to come from the top. Candidates want to know every company what's the leader like and what's the strategy.
Very interesting, because that is a huge shift from when I started out in recruitment. We won't talk about what date that was. Anyway, thanks guys. Moving on, next question is, in your opinion, and again, this goes to Jo and Shona, how should leaders create the space to enable them? And this is something that is so important in HRC, we talk about it a lot. How should leaders create the space to enable them to spend 2/3 of their time looking outside of the business rather than 2/3 of their time immersed in the business dealing with minutiae? Jo.
Well, interesting you come to me first, Hilary, I suppose, because if there's anyone that's a fail in this category, it's me. I know the principle. I know that I should focus 2/3 of my time looking outward and dealing with strategy, but I don't. I find it very, very difficult, and I know it's an issue. So I want to steal, if I may, the answer from a Scottish business leader that you may know, a chap called Mike Still. And he said to me two things that I think are really, really important for us as leaders to concentrate on. The first, and I'd say up front, I struggle with this, but I need to address it. The first one, delegate until it hurts. Really, really delegate until it hurts. And then the other one, which I am amused by, but I think it's very important. If you're not delegating, you're stealing from your employees' future. So that's the way I've been trying to look at this issue. And I suppose from a practical perspective, Hilary, I would say analyze your own time. What are you actually doing? And can you delegate any of those tasks? And personally speaking, if I can improve by 10% in this area, I think I will help myself and I will help the guys that report into me. So I hope that helps.
That's super, Joe. Thank you. Shona, your thoughts on this?
Yep, thanks, Joe.
I know you're going to get things delegated to you.
I know, I'm wondering what else I'm getting to come my way.
I've got a list, Shona.
I'll just pass that on for, I'll delegate then, that's fine. So it's really difficult, isn't it? You have to force yourself to do this. You need to build it into your diary. Make sure you've got regular, uninterrupted periods of time that you can just actually reflect and think. It's always been important, but I think the pandemic in the last couple of years has led to real market uncertainty. It's been really fast-paced digital disruption, changed the way that we all work and live, which has brought huge challenges. And we've all had to react really quickly to that. But it means that leaders are increasingly having to make really unfamiliar, unknown, high-stake decisions quickly. So it's really important that actually you build the time in to think those decisions through. So I suppose practical ways of doing that is planning the time out in your diary. I've started to try and do that. It's working okay for me so far. Being offline, physically taking yourself away from the day-to-day and, find your best thinking environment. Some people are better inside, sitting on their couch, away from their laptop, or outside, maybe listening to music or going out for a walk. So you need to find what works best for you and then build that in. And finding also the other key thing as well, everybody knows themselves and you know when you're most productive. So you need to find your own best time to think and be fiercely protective of it. Be really disciplined, because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. But the downside to that is if the leadership team aren't spending the time to reflect and think what's next, then ultimately you pay the price of potentially being left behind by the competition. And you're not going to get that level of thinking, flying between meetings to meetings, because your head's just filled with everything you've been talking about, the action points you've taken from the meeting. So you have to really get your brain into that mode. Distancing yourself from the day-to-day is the only way that you're going to be able to do that, so that you can really take an elevated view of the business. And I was reading, apparently it's famous, although I didn't know he did this, Bill Gates takes 2 separate chunks, 2 weeks of the year, that he goes away to what I think will probably be a very exclusive environment, just to think and reflect and plan about what is next. So Hilary, if you're up for doing that, count me in.
Is this the local ranch in East Kilbride we're talking about?
No. Apparently it's a waterside location. It's calming. It needs to be near the water. That's definitely not East Kilbride.
So Fife, here we come.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah, I think certainly within HRC we recognise that this is a really important issue for us. You get so tied up in the day-to-day business as usual stuff. Sometimes it's very difficult to look up and outwards, but as Shona has quite rightly said, it's vital to take time to actually look to see where the puck is going. It's a great slide, and consider the future and how you're going to get there. And the only way you can do that is to have focused time. And as Joe quite rightly said, learn to delegate some of what we do to people below us, because that's good for the business and it's great for their career development. Thank you both very much for that answer. Okay, moving on to our next question, and this is focused on Michelle and Mags. As a leader, and again, a very important question, as a leader, it's important that you're fit to lead and the pressure of the last 20 months has for sure taken its toll on many of us. What suggestions would you offer to anyone who's listening in and around what they could or should be doing to keep themselves at the top of their game? Michelle. Oh, you're on mute.
So wellness it's been a key theme throughout today's conversation, and company wellness is very important in 2022. You know, previously companies would have measured things like employee.
Oh, I think we've lost Michelle.
Yeah, it's like a technical issue. Yeah.
Yep, I think
so.
so.
Organisation.
Back.
Hi. Oh,
sorry, Michelle.
Sorry. Hi guys, am I back? Yeah.
Yes, you're back.
Yeah.
You're
sorry,
back.
It's the internet connection. So firstly, I think we should make sure that we've all got really good internet connections because it's very stressful, and make sure you're fit to work. No, I was saying that, you know, wellness, company wellness is a key theme throughout today's conversations. And it's an important factor that companies are going to be measuring in 2022. You know, so it's more, you know, we should be measuring the physical, mental and the financial health of our organisation and offering our wellness support across employees. What we can forget to do is look at our leaders actually, and as leaders, you know what, it can be difficult to have that sounding board because there's information that you simply can't share with the rest of your team. So, but it's our obligation to ensure that we're fit to lead. So, and we all know that if we can, you know, improve and educate on the mental and physical health of ourselves and the organisation, then it'll lead to better productivity and, you know, better financial health. So as leaders, we should be leading from the front. You know, when it comes to wellness, we need to be offering wellness support across our employees, but we need to have accountability for our own wellness as well. So one of the things that we could be doing is, you know, is working with a mentor and peer support. And this has worked fantastic in my business area, you know, over the last 20 months, is having that mentor support that's a trusted person that can give you guided support through situations on situations that you can't, you know, share with your team. You try to shield them from some of the changes that might be, you know, that might be facing them. But we also need to be leading from the front on our wellness campaign. So we have to be taking our lunches, taking wellness breaks, taking our holidays. And, you know, as leaders, and these are the things that tend to go because, you know, your workload, you know, you're so passionate and so invested in your work that, you know, it doesn't matter if we skip a lunch. Well, actually it does, because it's sending out the wrong message to the rest of the team.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Mags, what are your thoughts on this?
To be honest, mine pretty much reinforced what Michelle has already done, so I could actually just sit with my feet up for a couple of minutes. I think one of the things that I would pick up on would be the fact about getting a mentor. So we're all very lucky that we all have one, and I think you need to have that person that you can vent to and you can bounce ideas off, and you have to be able to trust them and get on with them. But it also needs to be someone who's got that wee bit more experience than you, and you have to accept that that's the best thing, because then you can get the benefit from their guidance and the experience that they've had. And we're going to be facing some challenges that none of us are quite aware of, so it's good to have someone that you can chat it through, because none of us have a crystal ball. I know I certainly don't. And the characteristics matter. So for me, I needed a mentor that had a bit of a sense of humour, because that's my processing mechanism, as you will know. And I'm very lucky that my mentor can put up with my slightly dry, ever so slightly sarcastic sense of humour. And then the second thing would be the well-being, and Michelle's mentioned this already. We need to practice what we preach. We need to take time out. We need to allow ourselves to recharge and not just keep running at things. And I mean, I am not for 1 minute suggesting that we all go out and start running marathons. There's other people within the business that like to do that. But it's really important that we actually take time and a bit of care with ourselves to make sure that we are effective in what we want to do. So that would be my thoughts.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So again, what I took from that was actually having somebody that you can go and talk to, because it's a stressful job, is really important. So as business leaders, if you haven't got a mentor, go and find somebody, because actually offloading and having a sounding board is really useful. And also making sure that you are looking after maybe some of your mental health and well-being, but having time and taking time to take lunch breaks and do some exercise is also absolutely critical going forward. So Mags, maybe you and I could start planning for a wee marathon or something, maybe a half, we could start, or maybe even a 5K. We'll maybe start with something easy.
Baby steps, please, baby steps.
Okay, on to our last question before we move on to general Q&A. Very important question, actually, and very relevant, particularly today. So given the events of yesterday with the invasion of Ukraine, we can already see that this is having an impact on the global economy. Stock markets have been plummeting. There's been a huge surge in the price of oil and gold and dollars. So if you've got some of that, then you're doing okay. But what do you perceive, each one of you very quickly, what do you perceive to be the biggest challenge business leaders and hiring managers will face over the next 12 to 24 months, and what one piece of advice would you offer? And I'll go to Joe first.
Thanks, Hilary. I said at the top of the meeting today, we need to embrace change. I don't know that it's advice. I think it's more comfort that I would offer. The UK economy actually coped very well with the COVID crisis 20 so months ago. And we have been able to be resilient through a period of unforeseen change. And I guess what I'm thinking today is that there may be more unforeseen change to come. So be confident in your own resilience and be open to embracing change.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Shona.
Yeah, I would probably, again, we've touched on this earlier today, but I would say looking after your staff and retaining your people. And we've covered, how you can do that. But I think even more so, people need, when there's uncertainty in the world, and certainly we are living in those times and continue to do so, I think that's really important that we're creating that culture and environment that people want to continue to be a part of. So focusing on our people would be my main focus, I would advise.
Okay, that's great. Michelle.
The biggest challenge will be uncertainty. And my advice is to ensure that your team's fit to adapt to the change.
Okay, excellent. Mags.
So when I was preparing things before the events of this morning, I would have said it was staff retention and making sure that you consider all the factors. In light of what's happened now, we don't know what's going to happen in the global market. So that does obviously create quite a lot of uncertainty. So I think everyone's got to be prepared to embrace change and give themselves time to think and plan, because we can't control what Russia is going to do, but we can control how we interact with our teams to give them confidence in their leadership.
I agree with that completely. Thank you for your thoughts on that. I suppose just to round off my own views on it, I guess we thought we were coming out of a pandemic and going back to a kind of business as usual scenario. We've got used to dealing with the unknown, so I guess we just need to keep doing that and keep being willing to adapt and be flexible. And resilience piece is going to be huge, I think, for business leaders going forward, actually. And that's why, going back to our previous question, we need to be on top of our own game. We need to be making sure we're looking after ourselves. And I think that will pay dividends going forward. So that's the end of our official questions. I have noticed we've got 3 questions coming up on our Q&A. So first one is, how do you prioritize time to think? Let me go to Mags for this one.
You have to block it off in your diary. I have discovered that is the only thing that works, because otherwise people spot a gap in my diary and fill it with something else. So I now actually do that and put a chunk of time in. That's the way I do it.
Okay, that's great. Anybody got anything else to offer? Good advice on how to prioritize time?
Delegate.
Delegate.
And just make it happen. Be disciplined about it. You have to.
Yeah. Okay. Great stuff. Next question is, what practical wellbeing tips have you implemented in the past year? What's worked in your business? So let me go to Michelle.
Okay, so we've did a lot of work as a business around wellbeing. We've now got mental health first aiders, and it's not just about having them there in person, it's about really engaging with our mental health first aiders, so they're part of maybe the team meetings and stuff and communicate what they're there for, and so that they're more visible. How can we make our mental health first aiders more visible? We've really worked hard on that. We've also been, we've been doing our socials via Teams, and we've been committed to doing that, and committed that the leadership team are part of that, because it is forcing people to take the time out for, a bit of a laugh and coming together and, getting to know some of the newer people within the business. We've been offering wellbeing breaks, which have been really good. So they're at the manager's discretion, whereas we think if someone's needing a bit of time out, then go and have a day a day just away, doing, spend time with your family, go and take up your hobby, so that we can really, really give people that time back. And actually, it's been about leading from the front, which has been quite difficult, because as the nature of a recruitment business, we're all running a million miles an hour. We're all trying to control a million different things. So actually taking our lunch breaks, ensuring we're taking our holidays, appearing offline, is just setting the example for the rest of the employees. And I think that's actually really, really helped us in our organisation.
Okay, that's great. Again, does anybody else have anything to offer on that one? No. Okay. Nope. And last question, how do you think you can communicate honesty in your EVP efforts? Let me go to Joe for that.
It ties into the last question and everything that Michelle was saying there. I think if you are not paying lip service to this, that you're seen to be putting your money where your mouth is, as far as actually valuing the people that work with you. I would probably add that with the people that report directly into me, I try to be wholly transparent in the way that I deal with them, and also be mindful of what's happening in their lives and the pressures that they are under. So just because I have a need to have a piece of information by 4 p.m. in a given day doesn't mean that they actually have the space in their working day to give that to me. So common decency, I think, is my view.
Yeah, I think the word transparent is very important. I think you've got to be authentic and transparent and walk the walk around these things. Okay, that brings us to the last of our, I've just noticed one more question. Very interesting question. Do you think, is the office no longer needed, or does it have a future? Or if it has a future, what will the office need to offer to be attractive to staff? This is a very interesting question. Joe?
I don't think the office is needed, but I think it's wanted. And it's wanted by us, it's wanted by the employees. It's not wanted 5 days a week, 9 to 5. It's not wanted in the context of commuting to the office. But the time that people spend together is very positive for those individuals. So we have to repurpose the office. We have to think about what its use is. Okay.
Michelle, what do you think about this?
I think Joe's right. It's not needed, but it's wanted. But if we look at our, associate levels, our trainees within the business, it's absolutely needed that these individuals need to be sitting with experience and learning from experience, listening, and getting all this brilliant and training that they're actually just getting passively can make a real difference. And also the support that the office will give these people within, that this level of graduates coming into the businesses, they won't get that sitting in the house. But what I do think it needs to be is, I think what we've been working on at HRC is making it more attractive to get people back into the office. So it's things like getting fresh fruit back in the office, ensuring that there's tea and coffee and milk and, Diet Coke, because we were used to getting that in the past, making sure these things are all there to attract people into the office. And actually, It needs to be more, it needs to be an environment now that is, people are used to the comforts of their own home. We need to make the office more like that to attract people back in to the office.
Very good points, although I'm not sure quite how Diet Coke fits in with healthy well-being, but
yeah, true.
we'll be passing that one. We're just coming to the end. Has anybody got anything else they would like to offer on that last question? No, that's great. Well, thank you all who have joined us today for it's difficult for me, our first HRC Connect event. We look forward to having you join us again. And that's us done for today. Thanks, guys. Thank you to my panelists as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.